felt like I didn't know myself. I definitely didn't trust myself. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Brielle. I'm a creative coach, life coach, and business coach. I tend to work with people who are either experiencing a lot of burnout, maybe coming up to a transition of some kind, they're feeling disconnected, they're not really sure what the next step is, or I work with people who are really ready to get into action around their ideas, around their goals, and bring something to life for the first time, or maybe launch a new part of what they've been doing. I'm also a dancer. I've been dancing salsa and other Latin styles, a lot of partner styles, for more than 10 years. I teach in Los Angeles and online. I have a bunch of different programs for dancers and also those who are brand new to movement or have always wanted to dance. Dance has been one of my greatest sources of joy and also taught me so much. Some of the most challenging but rewarding lessons have come through my own dance journey, and I love sharing that with others. I often write about dance and all these other topics I talk about on my YouTube channel in a newsletter. So if you want to subscribe, it's totally free and the link is below. And today we are going to talk a little bit about burnout and indecision and feeling apathetic. And I'm going to share a little bit about my own experiences with that, just because I think it's really helpful to hear specific examples. I think examples and stories are really helpful in terms of helping us process information. And it's easiest to share my own story with you to use that as an example. So let's get into it. So the first thing I'll say is that the way that I got into all of the work that I do now, years and years ago, was through my own feelings of burnout and feeling just so disconnected and being so confused and really frustrated in my own life, especially with my career. So I share that because a lot of times the source of our biggest frustrations or these moments that really make us turn inward can then go on maybe immediately or maybe years and years to come to be the opening, the catalyst to another really wonderful chapter that you didn't know was going to be part of your story. So that's a little bit of a shining light that I always like to share because I know how terrible it feels to be in that space of really feeling burned out and disconnected and just so confused. And also, I know what the other side looks like, and the other side is really wonderful. It's better than what you can imagine for yourself. So for me, I was living in New York and I was a marketing director for a travel company. And I had, worked my way up like bus, and I just found myself sort of at the top of this career and in this company. And I just really wasn't happy. I have kind of a natural enthusiasm that I've always associated with myself. I get really excited about things. I I have like kind of like a giddy energy sometimes, and maybe sometimes bubbly is a word that you would say. And I just didn't feel like that at all. I felt so, I wouldn't use the word depressed, but I would just use the word, I just didn't feel good. I didn't feel like myself. And I was just so apathetic and apathetic. Like I just like didn't care. And that's not a word I would use to describe. Okay, we're back. I had to fix my microphone. So I think that was really confusing for me. I felt like I didn't even know what I liked or what I didn't like. And when it came to my career, I didn't want to be doing what I was doing, but I didn't have a clear vision for what it was I did want. And I really felt like I had no starting place. So the first thing, if this is you at all, or you resonate to any part of that, of the story, one of the biggest tips I can share is to just start talking to people, especially if it's around your career or even around relationships. Start talking to people, send cold emails, reach out to them on Instagram, message them on LinkedIn, and just be really honest and genuine about the fact that you're not sure what you want right now and you want to have some conversations with people to start to open up what open up what could be possible for you and start to get some other perspectives and hear some other stories. That can be really powerful. and is something I recommend to private clients all the time, right? Because when we're on one track, we can really only see one track. And when we start to get into conversation with other people, entire other possibilities that we've never thought of start to come into our sphere of how we operate, and they just start to sort of almost like a chemistry experiment, right? When you start to mix different ingredients and they all bubble up and you don't really know what you're going to get. I never took a lot of chemistry classes, so this is totally off. Someone let me know in the comments. But I use it as an example to show that just having different ingredients and different perspectives and mixing them all up can start to create something new. And that's really important, especially in the beginning when you're feeling really, really stuck. Stuck is a word that I would have used. I was very stuck. So for me, I did end up talking to a lot of people. I also worked with my first coach around that time, and that was really powerful. And it opened up this whole world of personal development and spirituality and just energetic principles that I had never thought about before. And even though I had been very into like personal growth for a long time, it was just really powerful to be introduced to so many different concepts and start thinking about things in a different way. And I did work with a coach that experience really changed the trajectory of my life. And it's one of the things that got me so interested in coaching because, yeah, it was very powerful. So for me, one of the things that came up while I was doing this work was the fact that I really wanted to dance. I was dancing. Had been dancing since college. I started dancing after college in a serious way. I had found salsa and I really wanted to do this at an extremely high level. And I really wanted this to be part of my career. And for such a long time, I felt like I couldn't do that. Like couldn't, I wasn't good enough to be a dancer. I like really shied away from calling myself a dancer. And I kept like, I knew that I wanted to teach. I knew that I wanted to what's called compete professionally or like turn professional and start competing in a professional division. I really wanted to start writing about dance and sharing my own experiences. And I just felt like I couldn't do that until I had done all these other things. And I sort of had this long list in my mind. But when I actually sat down and wrote out what are those things that I feel like I need to do before I can take this next step, it became very clear that they weren't like really super valid. And it was more of this internal judgment that I had put on myself and felt then from other people and from the community that I was in. Because judgment, as I explained in another video, when we feel judged, it's because it's coming from our own inner judger. And one of the biggest things we can do is work with ourselves on changing that so that we don't feel it from the other people, because everyone's always mirroring back to us our own beliefs and what we feel. That's in a different video. I'll link it below. But back to the story. So with the help of this coach that I worked with, I did start taking tiny little steps into some of the things that I wanted to be doing professionally. And for me, a lot of that had to do with writing. A lot of that had to do with working with other people one-on-one. I really enjoy that. I really wanted to share a lot of the things I felt I had learned in dance, which is what I share a lot of in my coaching and in my online membership today. Of course, not everyone is a dancer, but the principles and the ideas that I learned from dance are often the metaphors, yeah, or analogies. Not sure. Someone let me know. But the metaphors, analogies that I use that are really, really helpful in some of the work I do with people. And then this really beautiful stuff happened where I started just feeling so much happier. I started getting back the joy that I had lost. And, I went on this really long personal, not really long. It was a couple of months. It was a few months. But at the time, it felt like such a big deal to give myself permission to rediscover what I loved and rediscover what I liked and what I didn't like. When I was feeling really burnt out and disconnected from myself, I couldn't tell you what I wanted to eat for lunch. I couldn't tell you what colors I liked. I felt like I didn't know myself. I definitely didn't trust myself, and developing self-trust is a whole thing that I did a lot of work on and I continue to work on, and we talk about it all the time in the membership because it's so important to have that trust and to trust your intuition, that gut voice, that voice inside your head, however it kind of comes up for you. And by doing these things, I really started to just change my life little by little, and you know live my dreams as a dancer, which was a huge thing for me. I started winning professional competitions, which was a huge dream and a huge goal of mine. I started traveling and teaching and performing with my partner, my dance partner at the time. I started dating in a different way. All of these things just opened up to me in a way that I hadn't given myself permission to really believe in, and to really own. So if you're feeling burnt out at all, or you're feeling disconnected, and you're looking for what you can do, just the next steps to help you bring forward, here are the 4 that I always recommend. First phase of this whole thing is to rediscover your passions and get honest about what it is you really want, right? This is often easier said than done, I know, but this is the first phase and such an important phase, right? We cannot actually go after what it is we want if we don't have the ability to get honest with ourselves and honest with the other people around us with what we want. So this could be in a relationship. Let's say you really want a committed partner and you really want um, to get married and have a family one day. But you're not saying that when you go out on dates. You're not feeling comfortable enough to really admit that to yourself because of X, Y, and Z. And you're not feeling comfortable to admit that when you're on a date, or even when you're just talking to someone for the first, few conversations. So there's no way that you can attract a partner who's going to want the same things or get into that relationship if you're not first able to be honest with yourself and honest with the person. So getting honest is really important. The other part about rediscovering our passions is all about giving ourselves permission to play and explore and do things that maybe we wouldn't normally do, but to help us reawaken this part of ourselves that has been kind of squashed down, that has all the answers for us, that really knows what does ignite us and spark ourselves. But it just hasn't been able to breathe for a really long time. And there are a bunch of different exercises you can do to help you reawaken that part of yourself. I share a lot of them in the online membership that I have. I share them with private clients all the time too. So definitely message me if you're interested in that and learning more about that. But that's really the first phase, is to rediscover what you're passionate about. Give yourself permission to play and explore, see what comes through, get curious, start listening, and then have the courage to be really honest with yourself. And this is also the phase in which I love using movement of any kind, because movement has a way of just helping us connect with our bodies. Our bodies hold so much knowledge for us, and getting us out of our heads. And we tend to live in our heads a lot. The second phase is what I call removing whatever is getting in the way. So once we identify the thing that we really want, or we start to get honest, what you generally discover is that these beliefs come in, these parts of ourselves that have learned that this isn't possible for us, they start to come in and they start to speak. And sometimes the voice is really loud. And there are different ways that we can work with these parts of ourselves to really hold compassion, and then to rewrite the story that this part believes. And that's a huge part of being able to move forward, right? Because as soon as we've gotten a really clear vision, as soon as we know what it is that we want, that's when these parts, these kind of disconnected parts of ourselves, if you've ever heard of IFS therapy, internal family systems, it's just a type of philosophy that talks a little bit more about this. I'll leave a link in the comment. But it's this idea that we have one self that's been splintered off into different selves, and these different parts of ourselves have certain beliefs that they hold on to really tightly, and those voices can get really loud and kind of hold us back. So I want to start to work with them, give them compassion, rewrite them, hold space for them, all the things. And that's really part of the second phase. The third phase, which is very connected to the second one, is really owning all that you are. So we need to practice. This is a skill set. It is like any other thing that we've learned. A lot of times we learn these things subconsciously. We don't even know that we're learning them, but we need to practice owning all that we are. We need to practice speaking our gifts out loud and feeling really confident in them. And if you've never done that before, or those voices, those parts of yourselves are getting really loud, this can be very, very, very powerful, right? And there are different exercises too that we can do in owning in this phase that help us own all that we are, right? Like little steps forward of the way that we tell our story, the way that we communicate, the way that we create our online presence or our physical presence to help support these gifts that are there, these parts of ourselves that are there, but could use a little bit of support showcasing because they're still a little bit shaky. And so we're really going to practice that in phase 3. Fourth phase is really all about taking action and moving forward and continuing to build on the work that we've done. So, this is not a one and done type of thing. It's something that I continue to do. It's something that I continue to do with my clients. As we reach greater and greater levels, these things come up for us. They sometimes show up a little bit differently. Sometimes they look very similarly, but it's a constant practice of building the internal tools to really support yourself and allow yourself to recognize what's going on, hold space, be compassionate, and give yourself the next step forward. So it's just a little bit about my own experience with feeling burnt out and disconnected and how I was able to move through that for myself. Again, I use myself as an example because it's just the easiest one, but it's something that I've guided lots of clients through. It's the work that we do in my online membership all of the time. So if you're interested, if you could use a little bit of support, reach out in the comments. I also have a completely free, it's called an energy tracker, which is a really helpful tool that you can use. You can really start to take stock of what's depleting you, what's filling you up, what are the people, experiences, thoughts, all of the things. And that can be a really helpful tool to support you. If you are feeling burnt out, or if you're feeling really disconnected, or you're just looking for a little bit of support to help reinvigorate that spark, I highly recommend you check it out. You can download it and I'll share the link below. That's all I have for today. If you haven't already, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's a really great way to let YouTube know that you found this helpful or inspiring in some way. It's helpful for me too, so I know what more to create and put out there in the world to support you in your next chapter and your next becoming. I share new videos every single week. You can always leave a comment and let me know what you'd like to see more of. And if you're interested in doing more of this work, please join me in my online membership or in a one-on-one session, and I will see you next time.